Waitress. Got it. You guys want to play Doom? Or we can keep doing this.
Doom. You probably know what Doom is, and all its history isn't exactly a mystery, so I'll try to be brief. Good luck, Squeegee.
Well, good luck with all that.
1993 saw a lot of good games hit the market, mostly for consoles. Nintendo and Sega were booming. The SNES and Genesis had been going at it for a few years and really needed to get a room. PC gaming was just beginning to grow up, and in particular, id Software was moving on from Commander Keen and Wolfenstein 3D, both of which had seen stellar presence in the PC gaming market. But id had bigger, harder, faster things in store, which was difficult to conceive of at the time. When Doom dropped that December, it wasn't just a game, it was a phenomenon. At one point it was, reportedly, installed on more computers than Windows itself. It's true that Wolfenstein 3D came first, but where Wolf 3D was a giant, Doom was a fucking titan. Technologically speaking, Doom did brand new things. Its engine could handle verticality. It wasn't strictly grid-based. You weren't restricted to 90-degree angles and single-height ceilings. You could vary the ceiling and floor. It even had lighting differences. Socially speaking, it broke new territory with its gore and violent/demonic themes as far as games were concerned. It wouldn't be until later on that it became the center of a controversy regarding all that, but nonetheless, whatever games may have done those things first, if any, didn't do them as well or as intensely as Doom did them. I wasn't allowed to play Doom as a little kid. I had to play Chex Quest. Stop laughing! Chex Quest is serious business, you assholes. Speaking in terms of gaming, Doom set the golden standard for games to be judged by for a very long time. So much so that anything with a first-person perspective was referenced as a Doom clone for a good while afterward. It wouldn't be much later until the term first-person shooter would come into use, and for good reason. Doom's core gameplay loop would be used for just about every shooter that would come out for a good long time, and it can be argued that every shooter today still draws on that DNA, just not as much as they used to. The gameplay loop of Doom can be broken down into three distinct tiers of objectives. The primary objective is to reach the end of the level. The second tier objective is to obtain keys and open locked doors, throw switches, and alter the level so you can reach the end. The third is to shoot demons and grab items. Boom! End of segment on gameplay. It's that simple. The formula is revealed. The heart of the boomer shooter. Every 90s shooter spanning from Doom all the way until Half-Life did these things. Some of them better than others. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to ramble about it in just a teeny, tiny, itty, bitty bit more detail, though. The game can be broken down into maps, opposition, and arsenal, so I'll talk a little bit about each of those and hope I haven't scared anyone off by the time we reach the end, yeah? Maps. Doom was broken down into episodes, each one consisting of roughly 9 maps. A map is the stage for the play, the setting for the action. The map itself has a flow. You go from point A to point B to point C, back to B, then to D, and then back to A so you can reach E, F, and G before ending the mission successfully and moving on to the next map, leaving the map you just finished behind you. It's not just a straight line. You're not on rails. The player can choose to go all kinds of places in all kinds of orders. Linear maps wouldn't dominate the FPS genre until Half-Life and beyond. A map is usually a sprawling, three-dimensional space filled with landmarks that you get to explore in search of keys, switches, items, and most importantly, secrets. Oh man, the secrets. Finding them was often difficult, and I learned most of mine through word of mouth from the internet. Secrets are packed with rewards for finding them, like ammo, power-ups, and oftentimes new weapons that you aren't supposed to have yet at the point of the game you discover the secret. Along the way, you find switches and color-coded doors. A door marked with a blue border requires the blue key to open. That means you need to find the blue key by exploring the map and surviving the horrors that lie between you and it. The same can be said of doors or bridges that require a switch to activate. Opposition. The bad guys in Doom consist of the undead, possessed people, and demons. All of them want to rip you apart, shoot you, set you on fire, and otherwise ruin your day. There's also lava, boiling blood, and toxic poison pools that stand in your way, but those are more environmental than demonic. Anyways, first you have your hit scanners, so called because there's no projectile to their attacks. Either you are in their line of sight and they hit you, or you aren't and they don't. They can miss, of course, but that's not the point. They come in two varieties, the zombie men and the shotgunners. They go down easy, much like your mom. But the nature of their attacks makes them a real threat despite them being low-tier bad guys. Then you have your imps, the spiky brown dudes that throw fireballs, which are slow-moving projectiles that can be dodged, or attack you in melee if you're close enough. They're a little tankier than the hit scanners, but they're still low-level enemies. They're the main bulk of the enemy force you face in Doom. There's pinkies, muscle-bound demon monsters that have no ranged attack and want to tear you apart with big nasty bites.
With nasty big pointy teeth.
They're tanky and oftentimes in the front lines, blocking your line of sight to the other enemies you want to be shooting. There's even an invisible variant of these called specters, which can be really hard to see in the chaos if you aren't careful. Lost souls are commonly regarded the most annoying enemy of all the enemies in Doom. They're the flaming skull things. They're basically made of toilet paper, so they blow up with relatively little effort, but they come in swarms and charge you for little chip damage. It's obnoxious. Cacodemons are the big red single-eyed beholder-looking things that float around and spit fireballs. They also have a nasty melee bite, but they're never really in range to use it. They can take quite a beating, and they deal a lot of damage. Finally, there's the Barons of Hell, which are the tankiest enemies I faced in my playthrough. They take a lot of damage and shoot green fireballs that hurt like hell. They're so dangerous that the game considers 2 of them to be a good boss fight for the final level of the first episode. Arsenal. Can't talk about the guns without talking about the elephant in the room, aiming. In Doom, you can't look up or down. You can only look side to side. This changed later with the introduction of source ports, which are a little outside the scope of this video, but suffice it to say that free look can be had in Doom nowadays. The game will automatically shoot your projectiles up or down for you if you line your shot up horizontally with the enemy. It's a little awkward now after years and years of games evolving, but at the time it wasn't even worth batting an eye at. You get used to it really quickly. I like to think of it as a neck brace. Every first-person shooter has an arsenal of weapons at the player's disposal, and it's one of the things that games tried to use to set themselves apart from one another for a good long while, sticking to the formula introduced by Doom while putting their own twists and spins on the concept. Even today, weapons in FPSs can often be broken down into categories that resemble Doom's weapon selection. First, but not foremost, you have the pistol, a weapon of last resort. Each episode starts you off with just this. It doesn't deal much damage, and there's not too much to talk about, so let's move on. The most prominent weapon you have is the shotgun. Unlike shotguns in modern shooters, it's not just a melee weapon that's useless when you're 2 inches away from the enemy. Of all the weapons in the game, I used this one the most. It handles lower level enemies in 1 or 2 shots, and it's great for sniping at enemies at medium and even sometimes long distances. The chain gun is my favorite weapon in the game. Its damage is comparable to the pistol. Comparable to the pistol? Comparabile to the pistole! But its rate of fire is much faster. It's great for sniping too. This is your machine gun, your assault rifle, your rapid-fire lead-spewing death machine. It can stun-lock enemies too. The rocket launcher is the one weapon you can accidentally blow yourself up with. It fires a slow-moving projectile that explodes for splash damage on impact. It does a ton of damage, but if you're not hitting up every secret you can find, you'll run out of ammo quickly if you aren't careful. It's used to clear rooms of enemies very quickly, or to burn down big baddies like the Barons of Hell. The plasma cannon also fires projectiles, but at a much faster rate of fire. It's probably hands down the most dangerous weapon in the game, not counting our next entry, and it runs out of energy cells, which aren't the most common ammo type either. The BFG is probably the most famous weapon ever put in a video game. Even people who have never played Doom know about the BFG 9000. Often imitated but never rivaled, the BFG deletes entire screens of bad guys at a time in exchange for chewing through your energy cells pretty quickly. Use this when everything else has failed you and you just want to get past an encounter as quickly and painlessly as possible. I almost forgot the chainsaw. The idea of using a chainsaw as a weapon is just brutal, and I love it. You can use it to save ammunition if you're clever and tactical, and few feelings can beat the sensation of having just chewed through a pinky or 2 in melee. Finally, there's the fist. It's not too useful unless you found the Berserk pack, but after that you can one-shot low-level enemies without spending any ammo. Berserk Fist is a fantastic option for dealing with pinkies, imps, and hip scanners that get too close, as long as you don't let yourself get surrounded. Weapons aren't the only thing that the Doom guy, that's you, have going for them to overcome the demons either. There's a host of power-ups and items that are littered throughout each map that help you overcome your obstacles. Health pickups come in several types and heal the player when they're picked up. Some of them can even overcharge a player, raising their hit points past 100 temporarily, creating some small strategy in picking up healing items so you won't waste any of them, since some of them will work past 100 and some of them will cap out there. Armor pickups increase the player's armor, which functionally acts as a second health pool. Incoming damage from demons and environmental hazards deals damage to the player's health, like in almost all games, but a small portion of that damage is blocked by the player's armor rating first. Armor comes in different qualities rather than just quantities like health pickups do. A blue mega armor will allocate more damage to the player's armor than a green body armor will. The game keeps track of which armor you're wearing, and just like health, some pickups can't go past 100, but others can. Soul Spheres instantly jump your hit points up by 100 to a maximum of 200. They're often the centerpiece of a secret, the carrot on the stick that gets the player motivated to explore the map in search of non-obvious routes or hidden doors. First the player sees the item, then the player gets to try and reach it. Invisibility spheres make you harder to see and thus lower enemy accuracy. Hit scanners will miss you more often, and fireballs will be aimed to your left or right while this power-up is active. Invulnerability spheres make you immune to all damage for a short time, so it's wise to strategize around them in battle. They also make the screen blindingly black and fucking white. There's also radiation suits which make your screen turn green. They protect you from toxic pools, boiling blood, and lava. Light amplification goggles act like night vision and help you see in darker areas. Last but definitely not least is the ammunition pickups. You have different kinds of ammo for different weapons, and as you fire your weapon, your ammo for that weapon obviously depletes. This results in, usually towards the beginning of an episode and less so towards the end of one, a kind of tug of war between wanting to use a weapon and wanting to keep some ammo for it in case you need it. Rely too heavily on rockets and you'll run out, simply because ammunition for that weapon doesn't grow on trees like shotgun shells do. Graphics. People like to say graphics don't matter, and I like to say they're full of shit. I'm sure Cruelty Squad is a fantastic game, but I just can't make myself play it because it literally hurts to look at. Doom, on the other hand, looks great. Pixelated sprites that were rendered from models made in real life, they turned out looking really good, and although I suppose it's a bit of a cop-out because at the time, 2D sprites in a 3D world was literally the only choice available, it's worth noting that it looks so good that lots of games nowadays choose to use that same model and evoke Doom for their graphical structure. Everything in the game is readable and stands out, from textures to monsters to pickups. There's never a question about what you're looking at. Enemies don't blend into the background. They have recognizable silhouettes. You can always pick out the important things immediately, and each item and enemy looks unique. When you kill a demon or a zombie and they topple over in a fountain of blood, it's so satisfying. The soundtrack was composed by Bobby Prince, and holy shit does it rock! I think it says a lot that the tracks are MIDIs, but they're still catchy and evocative. I played Doom for the first time recently this year, and one of the things I commented on immediately was how damn amazing the soundtrack was despite being limited by the technology of the time. It's inspired by the dark techno and heavy metal of the 90s, which is why there's been so much cover work done by YouTube metal bands even to this day. The guns sound great. Each one is as distinct and audibly unique as the graphics are for them. There's never a chance you'll get them confused. The shotgun pump sound is satisfying, the boomsticks go boom. Everything is as it should be. This is definitely a case where there being nothing unique to point out about the sound effects is a good thing. It means everything was done right and done well. No news is good news, yeah? The enemies growl and snarl and grunt. Somehow, despite playing a metric fuckload of this game, I never get tired of hearing them. They make noises when they've been alerted to your presence but can't see you as they prowl around looking for you. It adds some tension to the game sometimes when you can hear an enemy but don't know where the sound is coming from yet. Good stuff. Doom's plot is basically entirely absent from the game. If you don't read the manual, you probably don't know what was going on. Not that you particularly give a shit. Doom isn't a game about the story, it's a game about shooting demons. Narrative-driven shooters wouldn't really be a thing until Half-Life dropped in 1998. Until then, the plot was just an excuse to get you running and gunning. But for what it's worth, the story in the manual communicates the basic plot of the game, which is as follows. You are a hardened Marine who assaulted his superior officer for ordering him to fire on civilians. You were sent to the boring station of Mars, where the UAC, a multi-planetary conglomerate with toxic waste facilities on Mars and its 2 moons Deimos and Phobos, conducts secret experiments. One day, one of those secret experiments on teleportation technology goes wrong, and you're the only one left to clean up the mess. You have to fight your way out of the moon base you're on, climbing over the corpses of your buddies and mowing down the things that came out of the gateways. It's basic, simple stuff. It gets you right into the action, which is all it's supposed to do. Episode 1 is my favorite episode. The levels all feel great. Episode 1 Map 2 is probably my favorite mission in any shooter ever. The general gist of Episode 1 is mostly tech-based stuff, as you shoot your way through the moon base where the game starts. This episode was the shareware version of the game. It ends with Doom Guy dying and descending into hell itself. In my opinion, this episode features the tightest level design. Episode 2 is okay. It introduces the Plasma Gun and Cacodemons, and the Barons of Hell show up as regular enemies. The environment starts to devolve into hellish-infested tech-based stuff, a blend of episodes 1 and 3. It's good, but not as good as the first episode. The maps start to get a little bigger and more sprawly as well. Episode 3 is the weakest of the original 3. The environments go full-on fleshy-burny hell. It introduces the BFG, and the toughest and longest maps of the game can be found here. After fighting your way through hell, your reward is to return to Earth, only to discover that demons have attacked there and also killed your pet rabbit, which sets you up for Doom 2, which was released about a year later.
Fucked up his dog. That's what you did. You fucked up his dog. Yeah. That's crazy shit, man.
Episode 4 opens with a massive difficulty spike compared to the original 3 episodes. It was added in 1995 for Ultimate Doom, and it feels a little inconsistent with itself. Some maps are super hard, others aren't. Some maps are hellish, some are tech-based. It lacks the cohesion of the other episodes, and in general is my least favorite. I can't help but compare all the shooters I have played and will play to Doom. Its simplicity and straightforward design lend themselves to great gameplay. It's fun, frantic, and intense. Nothing stands between you and blasting demons. The game starts immediately dropping you into the action and ends when the shooting and exploring stops. Even though I only got to play Chex Quest as a kid, the core gameplay loop is the same, and it had a huge influence on me as a dungeon master, a game designer, and a player. The more I play, the more I realize the impact it had on me. There's a reason that the Doom scene still lives on, with modders and map makers and even entirely new games being developed using the Doom engine. It's just plain fun. Doom still holds up today. It's withstood the test of time. Some games age like milk, Doom has aged like a fine wine.